YouTube? This is Falcon Paladin coming to you with yet another daily Blizzard upload. This is Zest versus Hydra, Game 3 of the IEM Tournament Championship, held in Katowice in 2015. The tournament just concluded last Sunday, so these are hot off the press. And this is a ZVP matchup, one of my favorites. Currently, Hydra has a 2-0 lead on Zest, but it's a best-of-5 series, so if Zest wins this game, it'll be 2-1, and he has a fighting chance to get back in this game, or back in this series, and possibly come back and win it. So this is Vaani Research Station, a very narrow map, and one of the more interesting features of this map is the natural here that is protected from everything but a direct attack from up your ramp, through your main base, down the ramp, into the natural, as it is too far for Blink Stalkers to get to, too far for Reapers to jump. Only drops and flying attacks can get you over here. So we will likely see a quick little, maybe possibly a wall off at the front, then a quick expand from Zest, although based on that pylon placement, I don't actually expect that to happen at all. So we'll keep an eye on him, see what he's going for. Hydra is on a 2-game winning streak. He won game 1 thanks to some really nice Hydra timing pressure. He got right up to the front door of the natural of Zest with some Hydras, weathered an early Immortal Sentry attack using Hydralisks and Zerglings and Queens. It was a very nice defense, and then the Hydra counterattack was enough to win it for him. In game 2, Hydra was able to get out some Swarm Hosts, get some good pressure on the Protoss player. However, Zest was able to get some good Blink Stalker attacks onto those Swarm Hosts and kill almost all of them and start marching across the map towards Hydra's doom. But in the end, Hydra was able to get up a Hydra Roach army with some Viper support. The Vipers used the Abduct ability to grab the Colossus involved in the army, and he picked those off quickly. The remaining Roaches and Hydras were enough to clean out Zest's Stalker, Zealot, Sentry forces, and he won game 2. It was much very more exciting than I think I was expecting based on that early play, but in the end it was a really good game. So go back and watch game 2 if you haven't already. It was a pretty good cast, I think, and then come back and watch this one. I won't feel any less impressed with you if you do that. So we do have a scouting probe here, trying to steal some minerals. There he is, stealing some minerals, checking out this spawning pool. We do have a hatchery going down for Hydra. Again, a very safe place to build that natural, and the natural nexus going down for Zest as well. Now, while these players are ramping up, I want to go ahead and tell the story of my very first Starcraft 2 game ever. Now, I was a huge fan of Brood War. I bought Starcraft when I was about 14 or 15 years old with some friends. We played a whole lot of the original Starcraft and Brood War. As I went to college, I did the same thing. And even over, you know, when I moved away from home, I got my first job after college, I was still playing Starcraft Brood War. So I felt like I had a pretty good handle on how things worked. I was watching a lot of professional level games, and I was very confident in my abilities to play Zerg. So when Starcraft 2 came out, obviously I immediately purchased it. I hopped right in, I got on the ladder, and I said, alright, I think I can win my first game, get placed in a nice rank, and just pretty much go from there, be an amazing Zerg player. So I hopped in. I was unfamiliar with all of the mechanics. I didn't know what injecting was about with Queens. I didn't know any build orders. I didn't know when to get the spawning pool exactly. I knew what it did because it's the same thing as you get in StarCraft Brood War. I didn't know about having more bases than your opponent if they're Protoss or Terran, and I got wrecked by a Protoss player who essentially did a 4-gate on me. Now, if you're not familiar with a 4-gate, we haven't seen them in any of my videos so far, but they're a very popular strategy in lower levels of StarCraft, especially early on in the game. Essentially, Protoss would get 4 gateways, convert them into warp gates by using the research here at the Cybernetics core, and then put down a forward proxy pylon and basically rush the opponent up their ramp using Zealots and Stalkers. And a really good 4-gate player could get into the base by about 4 minutes. So I mean, at this point, we're 5 minutes into the game, and a huge army would already be here. I died to it so fast, and I said, oh, maybe I should actually learn some strategies and figure out what I'm doing if I'm going to ladder in StarCraft 2. So I went ahead and did a lot of research on Team Liquid. It's a fantastic resource. If you haven't been there yet, it's teamliquid.net. They have forums, they have wiki posts explaining exactly how to play the game, and it's a very good place to go if you are brand new to StarCraft 2 and want to learn. So that was my first experience. Again, I got a lot better. I learned about Baneling busts. I learned about Mutalisk rushes. I learned about a lot of stuff that Zerg needs to win, and I eventually did get all the way up to Diamond, which I'm very proud of. I finished in the top 8 diamond one season, was never able to get any further than that. I'm not sure if I just wasn't playing enough or my decision making wasn't good enough, but in the end, that was the cap of my StarCraft 2 career. And maybe if I get back into it here, I'll be able to make it to Masters, but we'll have to see how things go. Meanwhile, back at the game, we do have a third base going up for Hydra. He recognized the presence of double gas here on the Nexus for the Protoss player at the expansion and double gas at the main, which means he's just teching up. We have a Twilight Council going down and +1 weapons going down on the Forge. Sentries at this ramp. No number of Zerglings is ever getting up this ramp. 3 sentries is enough to shield it off infinitely with force fields, and even more sentries just for safe measure. Looks like they're popping out with those sentries and hoping to get a safe build-up on this third. However, there is a Zergling army coming up from Hydra. Just able to scout, though, recognizing that that many sentries and the Mothership Core is enough to prevent those Zerglings from doing too much damage, so they're going to escape back to the map and just recognize that that base has gone down and that there probably isn't an incoming giant army from Zest anytime soon. No 2 base timings. We are officially on 3 base for the Protoss player. So Mothership Core patrolling back and forth here, just trying to make sure no Zerglings sneak on in, or Banelings, or who knows what. A quick photon cannon nestled in here between the Nexus and the gateway, and another gateway will prevent Zergling attacks. The Zerglings cannot get into here. The photon cannon will be able to 2-shot those Zerglings to its heart content, and just too many will die to allow a small Zergling force like this that we have waiting here and moving on up now to do much damage. So you'll notice they pop on in, they try to pick off as many sentries as they can, but they back out, probably just trying to bait some force fields, but Zest does a good job of not just throwing down force fields that prove to be unnecessary. All the energy on these sentries is enough. They will need to be used later on in the game. Whatever composition Zest is going, those force fields are so useful against Zerg. So, looks like an IAM Krobs has left the game. An observer, likely, from the tournament. Not a big deal. Probably was just helping to officiate, make sure nothing sneaky was going on, and he had to leave the game for whatever reason. His computer might have crashed, who knows. Meanwhile, these Zerglings are just scouting, as is this Phoenix. If we follow the scouting hallucinated Phoenix, hallucination is a spell sentries have. It can create a number of hallucinated units. Phoenix are a favorite because they are fast, and they are just really good for scouting. So he's moving around, checking out what's going on. Meanwhile, we have a small Zergling attack heading up, surrounding all of these sentries, trying to take them down. Is not able to get a single sentry. One sentry does fall, but none of the others die. Some do take some hull damage. Zergling gets up into the base, but is killed before it can scout too much. It recognizes the robotics facility, and that's about it. But it did, again, force a lot of force field usage coming down from Zest. So, well played with those Zerglings. They were cheap. The Warp Prism tries to warp something in right there, but the Scouting Overlord sees it. Immediately, the Zealots come out. More Zealots are warped in. The Warp Prism is being attacked by this Queen, and out pop some Roaches and Zerglings. More Zerglings coming in. The Queen assisting as well. More Roaches and just more and more Zealots. I don't know if Hydra has enough to deal with this, but yes, more Roaches do come into support. They are doing terrible, terrible damage to these Zealots that have no armor upgrades whatsoever. So micro here would be good from the Roaches, as if Zealots right in your face can really ruin your day. The Queen almost goes down, but not quite, surviving with 18 hit points, and the Warp Prism escapes as well with its life. So Queen survives, a bunch of Roaches survive. I think the intent of that attack was just to force Hydra to produce some units instead of droning up on his 4 bases. That's something you really need to do as Protoss against Zerg, is just do incremental attacks, not necessarily trying to kill the Zerg, but force him to build attacking units instead of drones. What Zerg wants to do is get a lot of economy up, a lot of workers up, and then overwhelm you with units at that point. But if you come in with little attacks, it doesn't allow the timing to be quite as crisp for Hydra and for the Zerg player, and you will have to deal with a smaller army later on if you do that. So I think that's what the intent of these attacks are. Oh, here we go. Some locusts popping on out. And the swarm hosts moving up. The creep spread moving up as well along this left side, doing a great job. Some long distance locusts can't even quite make it to the 3rd base before they expire. They are being observed by this observer, obviously. And so Zest knows what he's up against. He is bringing his stalkers down. They do have blink. There's a quick blink there. A big zealot +2 attack for these units. A zealot group marches up with them. The Warp Prism warping stuff in. A small Mutalisk flock tries to pick off that Warp Prism, but the Blink Stalkers move right over and kill a couple of those Mutalisks. Meanwhile, this army heading on down, blinking around, and they are able to pick off these swarm hosts, which are undefended and observed by this observer. They all die. The locusts do spawn, take out a couple zealots, but that was a huge pickup for Zest. He's able to escape safely with his blink stalkers. These zealots are likely dead with some good micro here by these roaches, although the zealots do have charge, and they're chasing down those roaches, but in comes some zerglings to help assist, and the zealots are cleaned up. So again, a huge deal there for Zest, able to kill every single one of those swarm hosts thanks to this observer. Hydra was a little careless, leaving the swarm hosts out here in the open with nothing supporting them at all. And now he's a little desperate, trying to get a counterattack in with these zerglings, trying to even stuff up. Recognizes, though, that there is a huge Blinkstalker army sitting over here. Going to try to flank them with these zerglings, get them surrounded so they can't blink away. But they do blink, but now are surrounded by the zerglings. They're doing huge damage to these stalkers. They're falling quickly. Their blink is not ready to go. They're not able to escape. But thankfully, two Colossus do show up for the Protoss player, cleaning up all of those zerglings, and everybody is forced to retreat. The Mutalisks trying to take down the Phoenix, trying to take down the Stalkers, blinking after, killing more roaches, more Mutalisks. The Phoenix as well, faking damage, but it's just hallucination. More Swarm Hosts are up, but again, they are entirely undefended. The Locusts are trying to move in into the right side and cut off any units that are going to try to attack down this avenue here, but it looks like Zest is just content to retreat. These Zerglings come in, try to take down another group of Blink Stalkers, doing a really good job, taking 2, 3, 4 Blink Stalkers. A fifth one goes down, so those Zerglings were very cost effective. Again, just costing minerals and taking down units that cost minerals and gas. So well played on that small Zergling counterattack. The creep spread is again further pushing up the left side. Swarm Hosts with +2 armor are bringing their locusts around. It looks like they are targeted, who knows where. Oh, just lifting up there, so not targeted anymore. A small group of Hydralisks with +2 armor and not 0 attack are moving on up. The Colossus already have +3 attack at 16 minutes, which is pretty good. They're going to do well against these Hydralisks, well against these locusts, and I don't see anything that can handle this many Colossus, to tell you the truth. The Colossus and the Stalkers doing huge damage to this Hydralisk line. We do have Vipers popping in trying to abduct, but are there enough units left to snipe them off? It doesn't look like they are. This is a huge win for Zest. All the Colossus remain alive. A huge group of Blink Stalkers are still alive. All of these Swarm Hosts are going to die, even one getting picked up in the process, so it can be killed by the Phoenix. Not something you see very often. Colossus moving in, killing creep tumors. The supply is 155 to 160, so Zerg is in the lead, but I don't know if he has very much to deal with this huge army coming on through. A few Mutalisks getting alive, blinked over by the Blink Stalkers, and picked off. The Spine Crawler's not enough. The Spore Crawler's not enough. This huge Death Ball is moving down the left side, killing creep tumors, destroying static defense in the form of these Spine Crawlers. More creep tumors are going down. A Warp Prism even comes in to warp reinforcements directly to the front lines. This 4th base is going to die. Soon we are going to have a 4-base Protoss to a 3-base Zerg, which is not something any Zerg wants to see. More units are warping in. Looks like it's mostly Stalkers here. There is a Roach Viper army with a few Mutalisks. We're going to try to pull in the Colossus once again, focus those down. But there's some really good Warp Prism micro here, picking up the Colossus before they can be destroyed. And Hydra recognizes he's in a huge amount of trouble and does the GG. That was just a fantastic game by Zest on every front. The ability to bring in the Colossus when they are necessary, the pick off of the Swarm Host, the Warp Prism micro, picking up Colossus so they couldn't be focused down by the Roaches. Just an amazing win from Zest there, bringing the series to 2-1 and bringing him back into this best of 5 series of games. So this has been Falcon Paladin with another Daily Blizzard upload. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe, and visit me at twitter.com/FalconPaladin for daily updates. I also post funny stuff and other gaming news in case you're interested in any of that. And until next time, this has been Falcon Paladin. You take care of yourself.